Ableton tutorial. Lovely to have you here. A big shout out to the Patreon gang, big shout out YouTube gang. Right, let's get stuck into it. So today I wanted to take a look at MIDI feedback. So a little while ago I made a video inspired by William Basinski's Disintegration Loops. I called that video the Disintegration Looper, sort of creating an iterative system where a piece of audio could be fed into the system. It would go through a process, perhaps some EQ, perhaps some distortion or something like that, and then the output of that whole system gets fed back into the input, and so we get this constant looping, this constant iteration, this constant changing based on the input of the system. And I thought, hey, let's try that with MIDI. Let's try that with MIDI phrases. So what you hear in the background is this. It's two MIDI phrases that are just slowly evolving. The output of each of these MIDI phrases is being dictated by the input of each of these MIDI phrases. If that's a bit complicated, don't worry. Let's turn all of these things off. And let's start from the start and explore what this actually means. Full disclosure, I haven't really found super cool applications for this yet, but I thought I'd share the technique. I think sharing stuff and then hearing what you guys are doing with these weird things that we're exploring, and I see so much cool stuff in the comments. Hey, I tried this, and I'm like, oh wow, I would never have thought to take it in that direction. So looking forward to hearing the sort of things that you guys are doing with this. So very simply, let's begin with an instrument. For instrument today, I'm going to use this Glockenspiel that I made in a previous video. Link in the description below if you actually want to grab this yourself. I'm just going to set it back to default settings with one slight change. I'm going to transpose it down an octave. Let's take a listen to what that sounds like. Just going to make a MIDI clip here. Turn on the audition, and we can hear. Oh, there we go. So there's no note below that note, G3. So what I might actually do is already put a pitch device in front of the Glockenspiel that's going to fold all the notes to be within that range. So I'm going to go here, MIDI effects, pitch. You don't need to do this if you're using a synthesizer that is, a full range synth. I just thought it nice to use this instrument for today. So lowest is a G. I think it's about 2 octaves. So let's say 23, and let's say fold. I want you to fold all of the notes into that range. So what that means is that any note that pops out the bottom, so for instance an F#3 or a C3 or something, it's going to send that into the top end of the range. So it's going to sort of make the notes loop around so they all fit into this range. Right, I'm now going to create another 2 MIDI channels. This is going to be how we create this MIDI feedback loop. Ableton doesn't have a built-in way that a MIDI device can listen to MIDI from somewhere else in your Ableton set. There's plenty of audio devices that can do that. For instance, Raw, the vocoder, of course, Auto Shift, these things, they can listen to MIDI from anywhere inside your Ableton set, but there's no actual MIDI device that does that. So Ableton, if you're listening, that would be a really cool feature to have. It would make exploring things like this a lot easier, but we're gonna hack it and see what happens. So I'm going to create another 2 MIDI channels. I'm going to put this sound, this instrument at the end. Somehow that just makes sense to me, and I'm going to use this to be my MIDI out channel, and this is going to be my sort of feedback loop. Now, what I need to do is I need to tell this instrument to listen to MIDI from the MIDI out channel. So I'm going to say, I want you to take MIDI from the MIDI out channel. And we're going to set that to monitor the input now and not just play this clip. So I'm going to delete that MIDI clip and come in here and let's just check this. Let's do something like this. And this should now, oh, we heard it. So this is now playing, and it's playing over there. And that's going to keep playing. So we know that this channel 12 is listening to the MIDI from the MIDI out channel. That's exactly as it's supposed to be. Now, I'm also going to tell this feedback loop to listen to MIDI from the MIDI out channel. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to tell you to listen to MIDI out, and I'm going to turn on the input. We're going to turn off that record. Now, I also need to tell this MIDI out channel that it's going to receive feedback from this feedback loop channel. So I'm going to turn this, I'm going to do that here. I'm going to send MIDI to the MIDI out channel, and I'm going to turn on this record enable button here. And what that's going to do is it's going to let this channel listen to both the input into the system and then also stuff from the feedback loop. Now, if I was to press play now, it would just go crazy, sending MIDI messages backwards and forwards, and this instrument would not know what to do with itself, and it would just be a whole situation that I would have to sort out. Perhaps even Ableton would crash. Oh my goodness. So we're not going to do that straight away. Instead, we're going to do some transformation inside the feedback loop. And to begin with, let's just make it not play the note immediately. So we're going to go to MIDI effects, and we're going to use a note echo to do this. Now, very important, we want to make sure that the input is muted. We're going to turn the feedback all the way down. And so now what's going to happen is that this feedback loop is going to receive the MIDI from this MIDI out. It's going to wait 2 16th notes, and then it's just going to trigger another version of that. It's going to send that version into the MIDI out, which is going to send it to the Glockenspiel, but that MIDI out is then also going to send it back to the feedback loop. So now we should just get sort of an endless stream of notes. I have turned loop off. Oh, I want to make sure I turn loop off on there because I only want to trigger one note going into the system. Play. And it's already gone crazy doing some stuff. That's why we didn't get anything playing there. So let's short circuit the system and let's start again. There we go. So this note is now no longer being triggered by this. It's just got the input coming into the feedback loop system over here. And if I was to change this, so we now have an iterative system. It's creating an output, and then based on that output, it's doing some kind of input. Let's short circuit that and turn it off, and let's try some kind of transformations with this. So for instance, I should point out that on this Glockenspiel instrument, it's already got a scale device here as well. So everything is going to be in key. For now, let's just turn that off actually, so we can really hear what's going to happen. Now I'm going to bring in a random device after this. So I'm back on the feedback loop channel now, bring in a random device. And if I was to say choices 12, then we're just going to get a whole bunch of random notes and it's not going to make a lot of sense. I'm going to bring this choices all the way down to 1. And I'm going to set it to bipolar, and I'm going to set the chance to 50%, 49%. So now what this is going to do, 50% of the time, it's going to play the same note as it got from the input, and 50% of the time, it's either going to play the note above or the note below. Let's listen to that. Oh, I need to turn this. I short-circuited it, so I need to turn that back on. So now we can hear that the output is really being based on the input. It's sort of following, snaking around, doing all this stuff. Let's short-circuit that output again, and let's turn this scale device back on, and let's come back here, unshort-circuit it, create the loop again. So we get this really nice effect of this kind of randomization. Well, of course, not kind of randomization. It is a randomization, but the randomization is being based on the previous randomness. So we're having this sort of feedback situation happening in here. Let's short circuit that. Let's create a bit of a longer phrase. So let's make this 16 16th notes long. So it's now going to be 1 bar long. And I'm going to make this do just some kind of a scale here. Let's turn off the audition and let's do something just like this. Okay, make sure we make the feedback loop again. What we're going to hear is going to start off by playing this phrase, and we saw it programmed in the MIDI, da-da-da-da-da, phrase we're all very familiar with. But then each time it goes through this feedback loop, 50% of those notes are going to get changed by a little bit. And then that's going to be outputted to the Glockenspiel. And then 50% of those notes are going to get changed. So we're going to feel this loop slowly evolving. Let's take a listen. Ooh. Nice. So we're sort of slowly getting these different iterations that are based on each other, and slowly the notes in this sequence are really going to drift apart. Let's add another bit of random stuff happening here. Let's bring in a velocity. And let's randomize the velocity. And remember, this is now going to create an iteration, so the randomness is going to be based on the input into the system. So some notes are sort of slowly going to drift and become louder. Other notes are going to drift and then become quieter, but then maybe they're going to drift back towards each other as well. And this is a really nice effect. Super nice. What I can now also do is add new notes into the system. So if I change this to input monitor, and I've got my push set up. I didn't set up the video for it today, but now I'm just going to press a button on my push and add a new note into this system. Let's add another one just after that. And using this delay here, we can then actually, this delay is the velocity level of notes being inputted into the echo. So if we turn this delay down, we'll find that slowly notes from that sequence begin to fade away. Remember, they're still being randomized here a bit, so it's not an exact science. Let's add another note. Oh, it already got changed. So this is a really nice way that I can play in phrases, add to little bits, and then I get these sort of iterations of it. Let's sort of let that slowly fade out. Let's explore another application of this. You heard during the intro to this bit, there was some drums happening. So let's explore that with some drums. I prepared a drum loop here. This drum loop sounds like this. Actually, these are some really nice sounding drums. Okay, let's bring in a simpler. Let's chop that into a simpler instruments, simpler. And we're just going to try this same approach. Destructive iterations, or sort of not destructive. These aren't really destructive. Evolving iterations. Let's put this on slice mode. Let's slice by beat, slice by 16th note. And I'm just going to use sort of the first bar. So I'm just going to come in here and just make sure some things are tight. These all look pretty tight enough for rock and roll. Okay. Yeah, that'll do for now. So now I'm going to do the same thing, create two new MIDI channels, Shift Command T. I'm going to put the drum loop at the end because again, somehow that makes sense to me that should be there. Right, let's tell it to listen to MIDI from channel 14. Let's come in channel 14. Oh, let's turn the input monitor to on. Let's come in channel 14 and let's just actually program in that drum loop. So I've just chopped it according to 16th notes in the same way we sort of chop drum loops a lot. We know that C1 is going to be the first slice of the sample, and then moving up through the sample, we'll come back here to, this is going to be C1, this is going to be C sharp 1, D1, D sharp 1, etc., going all the way through. So now, because I've programmed that in here, yeah, there we go, this should just play the loop all the way through. Yeah, okay, let's just change a couple of things. Let's give a little bit of fade in. And that will do for that. Okay, let's press stop. Stop. Okay, now let's create this feedback situation. So coming in here, I want this to listen to channel 14. I'm going to bring in the MIDI effects note echo. Where have you gone? Note echo. And we're going to set that to be 16. 16/16, one whole bar, delay down. Delay all the way up. Feedback all the way down. Mute off. We want to make sure that this is not looping anymore. We want to turn input here to in, and we want to send that to channel 14 MIDI. So now let's just check that that is going to continually loop. We want to make sure that this is turned on. There we go. So now we can do let's short circuit that. So now we can do all those same things. But first of all, let's just try a random device in here. So because this is going to randomize the MIDI pitch, again, let's bring its choices down to 1. Let's go by, and let's go 18% of the time. Because this is going to randomize the pitch, what that is going to do to the drum loop is actually randomize the sample that's getting played. And remember, we're getting iterations. So each time it's spitting out a new loop. But then that loop is then the input of the system. And then it's just slightly altering that a little bit. So let's turn that back on. Let's have a listen. Yep, normally all the way through. This is cool. We're going to need to do the same thing with the pitch and constrain the range. So we want you to start at C1 and just go for a 1 octave. So let's do that at 11 and let's do fold. And then in terms of processing, all I did to that was added a raw, gave it a bit of drive and a little bit of high-end stuff, then a little bit of glue compressor, threshold down, a little bit of makeup, and make it parallel. attack up a little bit. And then I added an effects, a granular delay effects that I made. Link in the description below if you want to grab this. Let's turn the reverbs down. Turn the delay chances down. Turn the gain up. Okay, some cool effects there. So yeah, this was it. MIDI feedback. MIDI iterations of MIDI notes that we can input new notes into the system, and then all of the weird things are going to happen to it. But you know, it's going to be based on what it's done previously. So it's sort of random, but random with a cause. Let's short circuit that. Let's turn all these ones from the start back on, because I'm going to have just a little bit of a natter to conclude the video. And let's go back like this. Yeah, so like I said, this is kind of a new technique. You know, I think these are a couple of cool things to already start exploring with it, but I'd be really interested to hear stuff that you guys are exploring with it. Full Patreon members can download this set, including these instruments and devices and everything. But yeah, let me know in the comments stuff that you're exploring with this, because yeah, I think this is something cool. All right, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.